Good morning. I just listened to a video by Madison King, and I listened to the one by Albanese and the other clown of what they're going to do, what their version of um, the duties of the Governor General, who he is, and who runs the military. We'll start off with we've never had a lawful federal parliament for the reasons I put in the video yesterday, and still don't. You cannot speak yourself into being when you do not comply with the Constitution. You know that's a fact because otherwise you wouldn't have had a referendum or pushed for an election knowing full well that you're a pack of liars and frauds, a whole lot of yous, except for Madison King. Madison King, you've been taught a lot of stuff. I've listened to your stuff. You're very intelligent. I'm not representative. Now, the problem I have with what the Parliament's trying to say, they have an act which allows them to do what they like in a time of war. Well, you don't. You do not. You can't just conscript people, and Billy Hughes knew that. That's why he decided in 1907 he'd add conscription to the Constitution by way of an Act of Parliament. Preferential voting the same way. What you're not thinking about is the Parliament only has the authority to pass laws for the good government and well-being of the Commonwealth. There is no power to give you the authority to pass these acts that you claim to be there. The 1903 Act, which is nothing more than an invitation to go to war because it has no authority in law. There's nowhere in the Constitution says they have control of the military. It says the Governor General does. Now, do they have emergency powers? No, they don't. No, they don't. If they do, show me in the Constitution where it comes from, because page 795 of the annotated one, fourth paragraph, says you have to say where that authority comes from. So I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, show the people where you get that authority from, because you clowns are picking a war that's not ours. It does not belong to Australia. It isn't a dispute in Australia. It's a dispute with Russia and Ukraine, and it does not involve us, never will involve us, does not involve the British Empire, does not involve the Commonwealth of Australia. That's clear. So, you now, if you want any credibility, any of the political parties, because you've got none, zero, zilch, nothing, you have to show where you get the authority to do what you're saying you're going to do. The tariffs are because the politicians are stupid. Don't like that? Too bad. You are stupid. You continually carry on knowing you have no authority to exist, and you don't. Every single state of the 6 states have to return their constitutions back to the states, put them in position, and then comply with them. First of all, arrest all the politicians in the parliament. That's going to be interesting. You're all sitting in treason. I don't care what Ann Toomey says. I read some of the things she said in relation to the Defence Act. The Defence Act was made by a parliament which had no lawful right to exist. You needed 6 states to create the first federal parliament. The representatives of those 6 states created, both in the Senate, and those senators represent the whole state, and both in the House of Representatives, and those representatives represent the whole state. There is no such thing as opposition. I don't know what goes through your thick head, Albanese, but if you represent the people, why would you have somebody who doesn't like the way you represent it and decides they've got a better way and you put them in there, and they call, look at that, the opposition. Why are you opposing us or our ideas? Or are you admitting you've never followed the will of the people? That's true. You've never done it. You think from day dot that the Fabian Society, which was behind Billy Hughes and a few others in the first Parliament, had the right to do what they liked. They have none. Oh no, we don't. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, well, in 1896, the Fabian Society started the Labour Party in England, and they've been a pain in the butt ever since. But they've been a pain in the butt in the French Revolution, in the Bolsheviks in Russia, and by their own standards, don't particularly like Russians, and they get on the side of everybody else who brings down any monarchy or any representative of the monarchy. So that'll give you a fair idea where the Fabian Society and the Labour Party are coming from. But then you've got the Freemasons running the Liberal Party, and they're no better. They want their own way as well. Well, none of you are going to do that. None of you. Simply because the Governor-General is the Queen's representative in the Parliament. Means the Crown has to be there. You clowns think you had the right to take it out, even after the 1999 referendum when we said you can't. Look at that. You used the Constitution to try and take this country off us. Didn't work. We said at that referendum, and from nice little Freemason named Johnny Jackboot Howard and his clan, and all you clowns sat in the Parliament, the people of this country said Aboriginals were not the first inhabitants of Australia. We do not follow the Roman rule of law because we already had one. The presumption of innocence is ours. The Roman one is a presumption of absolute guilt until you prove otherwise, which is correct. Yours is garbage, like you. Now, the idea that the Queen or the Governor-General, being her representative, has the authority to turn around and say, all your people are going to war. That's not what it's there for. It's not what it's there for. The Governor-General selects 10 from the lower house and 8 from the upper. They form the executive parliament. The first executive lasts 3 months. Read section 61 to 68. You'll comprehend what I'm saying. I'm not wrong. I'm quoting the Constitution. I took the time to learn it. Unlike Anne Toomey, she learnt it off someone else who knows nothing. And Madison, that's where you've got it wrong. Not because you're stupid, because you've been taught nonsense. The Governor-General and the Crown is bound by the Constitution. Where in the Constitution does it say they have emergency powers? Where does it say they can just grab people off the street and send them to war? It doesn't. Until it does, they can't. Are you going to give it to them? No, nor am I. No one with a brain would send somebody to war without knowing that that war deliberately and singularly involves us. And it doesn't. It doesn't involve us, nor did any of the other conflicts. Now, as part of the British Empire, and we are, because we're a self-governing colony of England, and if you don't think it involves Aboriginal people, yes it does. Quite a few of the soldiers went to the First and Second World War were Aboriginal people. Why'd they go? Because they wanted to. It's not a case of dragging people out, putting them in uniforms and saying you're going to war. It's a case of putting the case to the people and the people agree to go. You cannot conscript them. If you could, it would be in the Constitution, and it's not. Can England conscript them? No. No, it can't. It doesn't say that in the Constitution. It says the Governor-General is the Commander-in-Chief of them. But it still needs permission I can see what you're saying, Lisa Winstanley. Aborigines went to war before they had rights to vote in this vile colonial Masonic regime. Well, we're not a colonial Masonic regime at all. You can take your hatred and don't come on my post. We only deal with people who talk sense and talking on behalf of all people, because it was whereas the people, not whereas the Aboriginals or whereas white people alone. We, all the people, joined together in one indissoluble federation of the Commonwealth of Australia for the betterment of everybody. None of us can go back again. By the time federation came in, we could not just pack up and go to England or anywhere, because we didn't come from there. We were born here. I'm seventh generation Australian. That doesn't mean I don't have any rights. It means I have this. Get out, Fly. Fly keeps blocking the camera. He thinks he's a movie star. Maybe we should put him in Parliament. He'll make better sense than them. At least he'll fix up the maggots. Oh, that's where they come from. How about that? Now, let's stop the hate sessions on my Facebook page, because I'll just block you. You cease and desist these tyrannical powers. Well, you've got to get to the point. Put the state constitutions back in place. Those constitutions do and always have, the originals, the proper ones, recognise native people. They must be fed. They must be clothed. They must be housed and given a small amount of money. I can tell you now, my experience is quite a few of them moved into houses earlier, knocked all the walls out, wrecked them and moved out. Not because they wanted to wreck the houses. It wasn't a hatred thing. It was, we never lived in a house. We lived in bark humpies and in the bush and whatever, or in caves, wherever they lived. That was the reason. It's like a white person getting in a house and you block all the windows up, you get claustrophobic, so they did. So don't look at them as criminals for breaking their way out of the houses. The houses are built wrong. They're built wrong if they don't accommodate for people's actions, beliefs, and how they live. In this country, you have a house full of windows, so all the air can flow through is one of the best things out. Why do you want air conditioning? Oh, because it gets too hot. Well, hang a bit of Hessian bag along the side where it is and spray a bit of water on it so it get cool. Oh, you don't want that. You want to turn the air conditioner on. That's okay. Then you pay for the power, so don't complain. Now, getting back to this war thing and your war act, because that's all it is, you had no power to make it. None at all. No one had the authority to sign off on it. None at all. Was it laws of good governance? No. We weren't involved in any of the wars. We are an isolated island. Martin Taylor, I'm not interested. I've debated that with people with a brain, and we don't believe there's enough authority granted for a grand jury by the people the way you say. So no, I don't agree. So we'll get out of that. Now let's go back to what I was talking about. This is all about the Defence Act, which is nonsense. It's about all the acts passed through Mark McGowan and all those idiots who think they can conscript us and force us, hold us down and force us to have a jab, knowing full well now that it kills people. They're still pushing it. I watched a thing this morning where everybody's ragging some politician in New South Wales, and what came out of her mouth, you need a bar of soap rammed in your mouth, lady, and wash it out. You're a total clown. MP, missing person, it should be MB, missing brain. I can't stand people like you. You think because, and I know you, if you had some of those jabs, you wouldn't be here. So don't tell lies. I'm not interested in your version, but thanks for the person who commented. Now, getting back to this, the Defence Act is invalid. We didn't have a lawful federal parliament. Could they send the states without a parliament? No, they can't. Could they send people from each state? No, they can't. I know for a fact, because where I'm staying, the people there are part Aboriginal, and their grandfather went to war, and I've seen all the papers where he volunteered. He did it all on himself, and he is an Aboriginal. His descent through his DNA is Polynesian. It doesn't have any other there, it's Polynesian. That's fine. He still was indigenous to this country. He was born here. Like you, like me, we were born here. We're indigenous. We are native to this country. There's no other way you can look at it, unless you're a bigot and not a racist, because we're all one race. It's called the human race. Politicians are a race all of their own. It's called flea race and maggots. Because for somebody to get up and tell the lies they tell and say the things they tell, they're all brain dead. You'd have to be that way. So now, can Albanese send anyone to war? No. Can they conscript them? No, they can't. Albanese, if you think you can, you think it's a good thing and it's not just jump out for votes. Put all the state constitutions in place. Have a referendum after you have lawful parliaments and ask the people, are they going to go to war? Do they want to? Do they think this war belongs to Australia? No, it doesn't. We got Chinese warships floating around the country. Yeah, I tend to believe you, Madison, they're floating around because they're part of the BRICS, as is a lot of others. But do I condone it? No. Flex their muscles around our country? No. They should pull their heads in and go back to where they come from and everybody stop buying their products. Simple. Payback's a bitch. If you want to wander around our country and try and intimidate us, we won't buy your products. It'll cost you. How are you going to afford to run your ships if you've got no money coming in? And Australia buys a heck of a lot of stuff off China. Put your money where your mouth is. Stop buying Chinese if they're going to try and intimidate us. Simple. Very simple way to deal with it. And as for send our kids to war, you're not going to do it, Albanese. You don't have the authority and you can't just go, I'm doing it. No, you don't have a Governor General. She's part of the WEF. And she's not our Governor General. We didn't invite her in. We didn't ask her to be anything. And the Queen never, or King never approved it. And as for those clowns saying, oh, the King signed off on all these documents, it's not the King. He's an adulterer. He committed adultery on his wife with the woman he's with now. And if you are any kind of a Christian in relation to any Bible, you would know that the book of Exodus says, stone them to death. That's their version. I didn't say it, the Bible says it, stone them to death. No, you're not going to do that because you've got to do this, you've got to forgive them. Yeah, of course you've got to forgive them. Christ forgave the thief on the cross, but he still stayed there, didn't take him down. Are you denying his authority or power to do that, or are you just too silly to realise, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar, render unto God that which is God's? He forgave him, everything's fine, but he still had to pay the penalty, and so do you. So that sorts that little issue out. Do they have to get stoned to death? Yeah. Forgive them, say, I forgive you, and then stone them to death. Is that what it's saying? No. No, do it properly. Now, you are not sending these kids to war. You morons, in your big suits and all your big bank accounts and your big houses, get on a boat and go over there and tell them, I'm here to defend Ukraine. Good idea. You idiots want to join it, you do it. That's personal choice, Personal choice. We choose not to go. Anybody in this country that chooses to go, pack up and go. Martin Taylor, Wayne Glew, constitutional remedy. Have you had the benefit of speaking directly to the current government on this? Martin Taylor, I've been speaking to the politicians in this state, federal and state, for a period of about 20 odd years. And I can tell you now, if I walked out There's a tin fence, a tin wall right there. If I spoke to that tin fence for the next 10 years, I still wouldn't get one iota of sense out of them, because that's the value of their mind. They can't think. I'm a politician. I get to decide. Well, sorry, you're a politician. You're there to serve the people, subject to our constitution and its authority granted. There's no other authority. You don't have the plenary power depicted by Anne Toomey. Her comprehension of the constitution is zero or nothing. She was taught that stuff, which is what schools and universities teach you. Well, they don't teach it at school. Well, somebody said that, but then I was looking at what was taught at a school. I'm not going to name the people. I looked at it and I answered their questions according to the Constitution, and the kid failed. Why did they fail? Not because I was wrong, because they were using the green Constitution for one, and it isn't the same as the red one, Anne Toomey. It's not. Stop talking nonsense. They're different. The annotations are written by morons in the green one. The red one is annotations written by the people who framed the Constitution. The true interpretation, nothing else. Now, what I want to talk on is not rave on here all day, to simply let people know there is no emergency powers, not for vaccines, not for diseases, not for anything. If those powers were in place, if you remember back, there was 3 ships on the east coast. Why did they allow them to go around into Western Australia? To spread the disease here, no other reason. You can't be an intelligent person and think, oh, they sent it around here so the bugs could escape and die in the air, which they would anyway, but it's not a virus, because that lives in the cells in the body, usually, according to the science of it, as people say. What I want to reiterate is the fact there is no act that can send our people to war. If you start a system whereby people can be employed in the military and they volunteer to go there, they can go there. But you show me otherwise where you can force people to go to war. I wouldn't even mind if it was a war that was against us. It was, like Japan and all those people, they wanted to take over the whole world. This is not the case. This is Russia telling one of its ex-countries, for whatever reason, you're not going to do what you're doing. We're not told the truth by the media, because the Australian Bulldust Club is the worst one on earth, next to the American Bulldust Club and all the others. And Trump was right. Fake news, that's all it all is. We need the truth. If we get the truth, how many people would actually stand up and go and fight? I don't know. But the biggest problem is you people are not interested in the truth. You're interested in, doesn't affect me, so they can go to war. I don't care, I'm living in my house, but you can do what you want. Do you realise that these clowns that want to send you to war and get rid of you stole your titles to your land? A title is the proof that you own it. And that's all you're doing, is stealing it. Because now you say you don't own it. The crown's still, but it's not the crown of England. It's the crown of the Queen of Australia and King of Australia that don't even exist. So you're lying. So is every real estate agent that puts a property on the market for sale. Sale means I come along, I want to buy it, I pay the money, it becomes mine. And you're saying no, it doesn't. We are not buying a portion of that land. We're buying the land inside the boundary. You've got no control over those boundaries. None at all. Transfer of Land Act, fraud. It ceased to exist on the proclamation of the Constitution under the provisions of Clause 7. Think I'm wrong? Read your Constitution. It's explained in Section 51, subsection 38 in the annotated Constitution. Clear as, read it and understand, when you buy something, you own it. When you buy a car, you own it. Why are we paying yearly licence fees? Western Australia, the cars have gone up $200 each car. Why? Now you're talking about bumping fuel up and you're bumping up electricity. Why? What about if we go and pull up the gas pipes, cut all the lines going out to these wind towers and get them removed off people's property because they're costing us a fortune in tax? Why do we have to pay for them? Why? Because some idiot sitting in Canberra has done a deal and obviously gets kickbacks looking at the size of the bank accounts of politicians. When are you people going to stand up? If Albaslezi or Albanese, whatever you want to call him, I just call him a lion maggot because that's all he is. He lies, his lips are moving, and you know he is. Send him another letter. Walk in, hand it at a polling booth. Don't get your name struck off because you're not going to contract with them. You're going to say you're attending there to vote lawfully. But there's no lawful candidates. Why not? The question of law is not can you vote or anything like that. That's just part of it. The actual question of law in that letter is one. Why not? Why not? Why don't you have lawful candidates? Because you can't. Till every state constitution is put back in place, and then you comply with that and chapter 1 of the constitution to elect a lawful federal parliament. Then can you, the governor of the states, because it doesn't become federal, the governors of the states select a pool of people. You vote for one person once for each house of parliament. That's how it works, Madison. Read your constitution, and if you want some more info, you know where I am. Just email me and I'll talk to you. You're entitled to know the truth and you've been lied to. I'm not saying it because I'm ridiculing you. I'm saying so I can help you if you want to go into Parliament with the fervour you've got for your people. Go for it. Contact me and I'll show you how to do it. Because the governor of the state has to select a pool of people. You vote for one person once for each house of the Parliament. It's never happened for federal because it can't. We've never had 6 lawful states. Doesn't matter what people are banding around, Terra Australis and all that nonsense. If you check back in the Aboriginal heritage, you'll find out Australia was originally called Beulah Land a couple of thousand years ago. It was always Beulah Land. What is that? Hebrew land. Because all the people in the world, the majority of them, are descendants of the Hebrews. Not the Jews, the Hebrews. That's why attacking Jews and everything is a nonsensical statement. It doesn't work. Because they're victims because they've been taught nonsense as well. Understand, is Rod Culleton's process viable remedy? I'm not even going to answer that. I'm not getting in a debate with Rod. He knows how I feel. If you're in a political party, you're wrong. Because you're not representing your people and you do not sit to be voted for in a pool selected by the governor. In that, he's wrong. Anything else, debate it with him. I'm not going to debate it. I know him. I don't hate him. We talk every now and again. He has his views, I have mine, but the Constitution is clear. The governor of the states collects a pool of people. We take vote for one person once for each house of the Parliament. Section 8, Section 30 says so. Now, you want to change that? Good. Have a lawful Parliament. They might be able to alter it a little, but they can't demolish it. And it's a letters patent, so it would be debatable if you could do it without the signature of the monarch, and that won't happen. So you can't even be an independent. You have to be selected by the governor. Go and put your name down and say, I want to be part of this pool of people. Is that hard? No. It's not. And it says, Sandra Walsh, where did you get the information about Hebrews? Good. Read the Bible. It'll tell you. Isaiah 62:4. My wife informs me. So if that's correct, and I would believe it would be because she's got a good brain too, have a read of it and understand what's going on. You're being lied to. You see, this country was claimed as the great Southland of the Holy Spirit for a reason. when you talk to people like Gary Matthews and look at what he's saying and the application to the Bible, you'll find that there's a lot of things you've been lied to about. I'm not going to have a debate on religion on here or beliefs because there's a difference in the two, but people have a moral compass, they're born with it, and that's explained simply by kids are not born Catholics or Baptists or Muslims or anything. They're born humans. The direction they go is depicted by their parents' teaching, nothing more. And I'm sure Madison will agree with that. She's taught according to the fact that she's born in the Kimberleys. She looks like she's Aboriginal. If she aligns with that, good, that's her right. I don't doubt that, but she's born in this country. She's native to this country. She's entitled to be fed, clothed, housed, and a small amount of money. How she gets the money? She works for it. She said so. Works as a job. Good. Am I promoting her? Yes, I think she's got a good brain. I think she would make a good asset as a lawfully elected politician, as is a heck of a lot of politicians. As I said, I've talked to a heck of a lot. The problem is getting it through their head that the parties are wrong. They're wrong. It doesn't matter if it's a party full of independents. They're still wrong. They are not what the Constitution says. We've got a Constitution for a reason. It's the parameters set by the people, us, as to how we wish to be governed. Understand that. It's simple, it's precise, and they're teaching all sorts of nonsense. Believe me, I've read some of it that teachers put over, and they're not even teaching it properly in universities. Hence, you've got the nonsense coming out of the mouth of Ann Toomey. Is she a liar? I haven't said that. Is she sprouting lies? I have said that. What she's teaching is lies. She's been taught lies. She's speaking lies. If that's hard to swallow, that's okay. You won't debate me. You don't want to know. I've spent a lot of years studying the Constitution, and I've got several copies, all of which are the same text except the green book. The one you and says is the same as the red one. It's not. It definitely isn't. It's nonsense. You've been taught nonsense. Either that or somebody told you haven't even bothered to look. I suggest you both get a copy of the green one and the red one. Tim Dwyer in South Australia sells the red one. The green ones you get from Canberra. And believe me, the green one's not lawful. And you'll know that as soon as you pick it up and read it. So I'm not going on, but the Axu quote to send people to war, Albanese, you're a liar and a fraud. You're not the Prime Minister. Prime Minister is the President of the Parliament, which happens to be the Speaker. If you can't see that, go back to school. Sorry, don't go to school. There goes that stupid fly again taking over. Anyway, don't bother going to school. They're going to teach you nonsense. Read the Constitution. I know you can read. I know you've got an education of some kind, but it's not the right one. So, no, you can't have your acts that you're going to send people to war. No, you can't just go and pick a fight with somebody because it's the preference of the communist left-wing Labour morons. You can't do it. You can't do it. And the people have a right to resist. If it so happens, and I'm not suggesting it does, you get a whole group of people, and you put them in the army and you train them, and they get their guns, they go out to the firing range and turn it on the bosses. Good. You've got no right to send them to war. No right whatsoever. Yeah, the Defence Act. No, I'm not even going to read any of this. This is inheritance tax, 15%. Members of Parliament excluded. Why? Removal of negative gearing, members of Parliament excluded. Why? How come you've got all these privileges? Marginal income tax threshold of 49.5% to commence at an annual income of $135,000. Well, really, I'll tell you something about the tax. You can't tax us. It is voluntary. Read your Constitution, you'll find out there's nowhere in there says you can tax the people. Why do you have to have our permission? Because we haven't given it to you in our Constitution. Do you have the right to tax us? No, you don't. You do not. You have no right to tax our land. That was a 1923 case, proved that. But you just ignore that because that was New South Wales. Hang on, it wasn't. It was New South Wales versus us. It involved all of us. Fiji versus the Northern Territory. I'm not going to attack what happened yesterday in supposed High Court that doesn't exist since 1979 because the High Court Act. You can't have an act which binds the High Court, ties it to the Parliament. It's bound by separation of powers. You don't have it, so the act is invalid. Are they entitled to get the money? That's not the issue. The issue is the legality or the lawfulness of what took place. The High Court, in its present position, has no authority to deal with it. Read your Constitution, you'll understand what I'm saying, or comprehend what I'm saying. So you have a lovely day. I'm going out to do a bit of shopping. So have a nice day. It is a beautiful day outside in sunny old Geraldton, Western Australia. The right place to be at this time. So no, you can't send us to war. You idiots go pack up and go to war. The whole lot of you. You could use a good exercise regime.